Spin Cycle Live. I'm your host, Nathan Hale. Today, we have another great show for you. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. And boy golly, do we got a lot to get into. Audio should be sounding better. I got a brand new microphone for this show. Thank you all for supporting me and this show so much. You make stuff like this possible for me to afford and keep doing for you all. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, we got a lot to get into. So of course, the show has moved to Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Still the same time for the show. We're just going 2 a week instead of 3. So we're going from Monday, Wednesday, Friday to Tuesday, Thursday, every single week, giving you the latest top news stories. You have suggestions for the show, anything you change about it, any suggestion for me, send me a message on Twitter. I love to hear it. Make sure you're sharing the show with your friends. Get more people's eyes watching the show. And yeah, we'll get right into our very first story of the week. I don't want to take up too much of your time on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Very first story comes from Fox News. So, a fan, this comes from my very home city, by the way. The story is straight out of St. Louis, Missouri. I love St. Louis so much, but they got a little bit of egg on their face today, if I do say so myself. So, fan wearing Make America Great Again hat escorted by security from MLS match. So, MLS is Major League Soccer. I didn't know people honestly watched soccer until an MLS team moved into St. Louis. I was like, people gotta be watching this coming to St. Louis because nothing good ever comes to St. Louis, if we're being completely honest. If you know, you know. So a man attending a recent Major League Soccer game claimed his choice of attire resulted in him being asked to leave the sporting event, according to a video post on social media. We'll play that video in just a moment. The man, who identified himself in the video as Michael Wetzel, was seen wearing a red Make America Great Again hat at Energizer Park, St. Louis City's SC's home stadium. A member of the venue security team responded by saying, quote, "They're non-political here. They don't want any kind of political messaging." Wetzel responded by pointing towards a section of fans holding flags and suggesting the items were inherently political, but the staff quickly clarified by saying those were pre-approved. Rules at Energizer Stadium state that political banners were not allowed in the stadium. Does not mention anything about hats. So let's go and play this video, and then we'll talk about it. So this from X. So let me go ahead and turn the audio on for you all, and yeah, hopefully you can hear it.
We're on cameras up here. Hey. No, I just want to make sure I got this. Yeah, what's up? I'm Michael Weitzel. I'm being asked to leave by the police because of Donald Trump.
Hey, I'm a Donald Trumper, dude.
You're a Trump fan?
I'm a man. Yes, I am.
So I just want
all these coppers you got to deal with them, Megan. But they're not political here. They don't want any kind of political.
So those flags over there.
Those are pre-approved.
Those flags over there. Those aren't political. So my question to you guys is: are these rules equally enforced on everybody?
And here's my question to you.
And the only way I can do that is if I enforce it with you.
Or you just go out.
Go out and handcuff. So I'm being threatened with arrest. What law am I breaking? What am I?
We ask you to leave.
You're asking me to leave.
You're asking me to leave. Am I being evicted from the premises?
You're being evicted from the premises. You want to make a big?
Okay. We're gonna walk up. I'm being evicted from the premises because of Donald Trump. Because we can't wear Donald Trump hats in public, and so now I'm being evicted from the premises. We need a big procession to get me out of here. Trump is not welcome in St. Louis City SC.
So that's where I'm going to pause the video. Essentially, after that, he was escorted out of the stadium, and that's pretty much where it goes. So it goes on for about a minute and a half after that. So you can go watch the full video. Link is in the description. If you follow me on Twitter, I retweeted it. So if you want to go see it, show some support to this guy. Now, let's set politics aside entirely here. I don't know what's happening with my news screen right now. It's going haywire. But let's set politics aside here for just a moment and ask ourselves, why is this even happening in the first place, right? Why is a man wearing a Make America Great Again hat being escorted out of a stadium? What has happened in our country so much that that's what's happening? Well, I'll tell you, the left has made this happen. Let me elaborate. You may have seen back in 2024, Democrats freely posting on the back of their cars, Kamala Harris for president, Bernie Sanders for president back in, 2016, right? Joe Biden for president, wearing hats, wearing attire of their political candidate out in public. How many of you honestly can say that they saw people wearing Donald Trump merchandise out in public? Now, I recognize our experiences are different. I live in a city, right? Cities are generally much more liberal. I saw essentially no Donald Trump support anywhere in the city other than if I started going into the suburbs, right? But why is that? It's not solely because I've driven through, by the way, I've gone through largely conservative areas too, and it's been much more minimal than it has been in the cities, right? Why is that? I truly think, I would not put a Donald Trump bumper sticker on my car because I wanted someone keying me, right? Because that is the philosophy that the leftists have, is that if you disagree with them, you are somehow their enemy. If you disagree with them or you do anything that they don't like, you're the enemy. Oh, and by the way, you deserve to not exist anymore. You deserve to be kicked out of venues. You deserve to be shunned. You deserve to run into any number of situations in which you just are exiled, essentially, right? That is the philosophy they've taken. Go on to Twitter if you don't believe me and look at any mainstream leftist account or any posts that are getting millions of views right now. It's all about basically saying, hey, you deserve to be exiled, you deserve to be killed, you deserve to be, taken out in one way or another, right? There have been post after post after post of Donald Trump, for instance. Whenever a major celebrity has passed away, people posting, wish it could have been someone else, indicating it should have been Donald Trump, right? Or wish it could have been Trump, or wish it could have been 47, right? Or saying something along those lines, right? It's terrible. You would never catch a conservative doing that. I would hazard a guess to say that if you walked into a church wearing a Kamala Harris hat, I would doubt, based on the folks who I know, I would doubt that they would ask you to leave a church wearing a Kamala Harris hat. They might think that you're an idiot, right? But this isn't about thinking that Trump supporters are idiots or Kamala Harris supporters are idiots. It's about saying, do you deserve to exist in a space and have a hat on? This is a non-offensive hat. It's not like... I understand if we're talking about hats that have incited violence in one way or another, right? If he walked in wearing a swastika hat or some sort of Nazi hat, that I would get, hey, you gotta go. You can't wear that in here, right? If you walked in wearing a shirt that had a bloody Trump head on it, I'd expect you to get kicked out too. That's insane. But a hat that says "Make America Great Again," I don't see the issue in that. And to say that that is inherently a political statement, "Make America Great Again" is somehow a political statement, I think is kind of wild too. We all want to make America great again, don't we? We all want America to be great. How is that at all political, at all divisive amongst people? And he's right, they did have flags there, but somehow those were pre-approved. So you can get pre-approved to have a political message shown there, but you can't walk in with one, I guess. So, I don't know, a little bit of egg on St. Louis's face, in my opinion, frankly, but, yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Gregg Keller posted this. At our Gregg Keller on X posted this video. 4.8 million views on it. Wild times we're living in right now. Wild times. Where's my next tab at? Here we go. Alright, so our next story today comes from Blaze Media. Another story out of St. Louis. St. Louis is making all the headlines today, let me tell you. So from Blaze Media, you might remember these lovely folks from a few years ago. Oh, you gotta love them. You gotta love them. This woman, she's such a baddie with her little pistol. She's such a baddie. So McCloskey's finally get what's theirs more than 5 years later. It only took 3 lawsuits, 2 trips to the Court of Appeals, and 1,847 days. So 5 years after a firestorm of media attention, a mountain of legal troubles, and a run for office, Mark McCloskey has finally collected. In 2020, McCloskey and his wife, Patricia, went viral in the media after Mark wielded an AR-15 on his porch alongside his pistol-packing wife as a large group of Black Lives Matter protesters demonstrated down their private street. The protesters broke down an iron gate leading into the McCloskey's neighborhood, leading the couple to say they were in fear of their lives at the time. Mr. McCloskey eventually surrendered the couple's guns as part of an agreement in which he pleaded guilty to 4th-degree assault and his wife pleaded guilty to 2nd-degree harassment, both misdemeanors, after being originally charged with felonies. Former Missouri Governor Mike Parsons pardoned all of the McCloskey's charges in summer of 2021. Now, some of their property has finally been returned. Quote, it only took 3 lawsuits, 2 trips to the Court of Appeals, and 1,847 days, but I got my AR-15 back, McCloskey wrote on X. The homeowner compared 2020 photos of him and his wife brandishing their guns alongside a new photo of himself with the AR-15 in front of his house. Quote, we defended our home, we protected, were prosecuted by the left, smeared by the press, and threatened with death, but we never backed down, he continued. What's missing? Patty and the Brecco, soon, he added, referring to the Brecco .388 caliber pistol his wife was holding in 2020. You gotta get the pistol back. You gotta get the pistol back. She's such a baddie with her pistol. You gotta get her pistol back. So, you know, this happened not too far away from me. In fact, this man ran for Missouri Senate in 2022. I voted for him in 2022 in the primaries over Eric Schmidt. I voted for him. I saw him campaigning in the St. Louis area. He's a great guy. I love this guy. He's such a baddie. Him and his wife both. So fortunately he didn't win. You know, Eric Schmidt's been a fine guy, but I would have loved him to have been in Congress. But I remember this happened. I lived not too far away from this happened, miles away. I remember when this happened. I remember when the Black Lives Matter protests were going through St. Louis and this happened. And I remember hoping that nobody showed up in my neighborhood, my little middle-class neighborhood at the time. Nobody did, thankfully, but I don't blame them at all. Now, here is what I want to touch on. You know, just as we were talking in the last story about how the left can't handle the opposition, or how conservatives always get exiled in the media the way they do, right? Story after story after story were focused around the McCloskeys holding guns on their front porch after Black Lives Matter protesters broke down an iron gate at the front of their neighborhood and came into their private subdivision, right? So the story was focused on trying to say, hey, these guys here who protected their house and their property, who felt endangered by these protesters coming around their place, they're the bad guys here, not the actual criminals, not the actual criminals who came in through the back gate, through the front gate, and broke into the neighborhood, who broke down a gate to come in. It's these folks right here. It's them who are the criminals. Where's my screen at? I can't. It's mirrored when I'm looking at it. Which way is it? Right here. These folks right here, they're the criminals. Right? They're the bad guys here. So, story after story after story in the media was focused around persecuting them, persecuting the McCloskeys, and trying to show how they're in the wrong here. I can't remember a single story coming out talking about how the Black Lives Matter protesters in the wrong from any sort of left-leaning news outlet, right? It was only ever the right-wing outlets that were talking about how the Black Lives Matter folks are in the wrong here. I think it's crazy. Great that he got his AR-15 back. You might say, why did he just go and get a new one? I would say to that, he wanted his AR-15 back, right? It's the one that he purchased. It's the one that he owned. It's the one that he stood in front of his house and protected it with. It's his gun, right? He deserves to have his back. And why should the state of Missouri get to keep his weapon, right? He was pardoned by the Missouri governor. Great guy. Pardon the man. Why shouldn't he get it back? So we're glad to see it. Get this wife her gun back. Get her pistol back to her. She's such a baddie. Gotta love it. All right. Let's move on to our next story here, if I can find the tab. For some reason, Chrome has been flipping out on me today, and it's been whiting out all my tabs at the top of the screen here. I can't see any of them. You're seeing what I'm seeing here. So Texas Dems leave state to block vote on redrawn House map backed by Trump. So from the New York Post. Texas Democrats left the state Sunday in an attempt to prevent the state house from holding a vote Monday on new congressional maps the Republicans hope will net them several additional U.S. House seats in the 2026 midterm elections. The dramatic move could expose Democrats to fines and other penalties, with the state's attorney general having previously threatened to arrest them if they took such an action. Refusing to attend legislative sessions is a civil violation, however, so Democrats legally could not be legally jailed, as unclear who has the power to carry out the warrants. Democrats have cast the decision to leave the state as a last-ditch effort to stop Republicans who hold full control of the Texas government from pushing through a rare mid-decade redrawing of the congressional map at the direction of President Donald Trump. Quote, "This is not a decision we make lightly, but it is one that we make with absolute moral clarity," said Gene Wu, chair of the House Democratic Caucus, in a statement. To conduct official business, at least 100 members of the 150-member Texas House must be present. Democrats hold 62 of the seats in the majority Republican chamber. Trump has urged Texas Republicans to redraw the map to help the party net a handful of seats in the midterm next year. I swear, so childish. We learn all of this. We're constantly hearing things from the Democrats that are just so childish in their actions, right? I feel like they fled the state before, right? I'm sorry. If you're a citizen of the state of Texas, if you live in Texas, how does it feel to you knowing that 62 of your representatives are fleeing your state to avoid talking about the inevitable? Because they'll have to come back at some point. They can't go forever. And as soon as they come back, they'll just talk about the map again. So what's it really doing? It's just causing a media stir. It's just childish. It's nothing but childish antics that the Democrats love to push to try and get in the media. And now I have my opinions about the congressional maps, and we'll show them in just a second. But honestly, shame on the Democrats for abandoning your state in a time when your voices matter in driving the discussion of how they redistrict this state. You're the opposition of the state. You need to be there to steer the ship at least a little bit and be the voice of opposition to this map being redrawn. Now, if you're a Republican, you probably don't care all that much about the map being redrawn. I'm just going in favor of Republicans. But my point still stands, right? If Republicans fled the state of California to avoid talking about redistricting California, which is also happening right now, by the way, shame on them too. They need to be the voice of reason in the California State House to try and at least steer the craziness of the leftists down a little bit. But instead, Democrats are fleeing the state. So let's look at the map that's being proposed. So here's what it looks like, and I'll show a slightly more detailed one in just a moment. But so we can see this is the proposed plan that's up. So the dotted lines are county lines. You might not be able to see it all that well. There's some blown up shots here. I want you to focus on some of these cities, okay? So for example, this is, I believe, San Antonio, Texas, down here. This is Bexar County. This S-shaped district right here is meant to redraw the area so that it is solely a Democrat district, with the surrounding areas being Republican. See this little orange, this little yellow gap right here? I'm at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. It kind of comes in and jets in around San Antonio to help offset the amount of Democrat votes in the state, right? What is happening right here? And regardless of how you feel about it, right? You can be a Republican. I'm a Republican. What's happening here is Republicans are gerrymandering the state of Texas to benefit their party so that they can get a few more congressional seats in the next election, 2026, right? That's all that's happening here. Now, if you're a Republican, you probably like this, right? Because you want to see more Republicans in the state. I happen to be a Republican. I'm not a fan of gerrymandering, right? The left does it, the right does it, everyone does it. Nobody is at blame more than anyone else for gerrymandering. And if you think I'm wrong, go and look at any state, right? Almost every state in this country, I would say, is being gerrymandered in one way or another to benefit whatever party generally runs that state. Some states are a little bit worse than others. Missouri, where I live, Missouri does a decent job, right? There's an argument to be made that there probably could be a third. We have 2 Democrats in our state. We have 8 congressional seats. We have two of those are Democrat seats. There's an argument to me there could be a third Democrat seat in the state if it was more fairly drawn. But for the most part, it makes sense. You know, the 2 Democrat seats come from St. Louis, Kansas City. Those 2 Democratic strongholds. We also have Columbia, which is kind of around where our state capital is. There's an argument made there, but I'm not up in arms so much about Missouri. But, you know, Texas is a large state. They have a lot of representatives, and they're very clearly drawing their districts in ways to benefit their party. So look at this one right here. This is the middle, I guess, box on this map. This is around the 29th congressional district, which is, if I look in this map a little bit, this is around, I believe, where Houston, Texas is, very close to Corpus Christi, kind of out near the Gulf. I believe that's where Houston is. I don't have the names on the maps right here. But this is Harris County. You can see this blue district right here. Look at how oddly this thing is shaped right here. It just looks like it looks like you gave a toddler some crayons and have him just start drawing all over a map, essentially, and you're like, that's a district right there. We'll give it to him. So the parameters they have for drawing maps is that every district roughly has to have around the same amount of representatives. There's only so much you can do, right? So if you look at these large areas of the map, if you look more up at northern Texas, right, they're drawn more around county lines here. You know, this blue district here, this is district, was this district 18, 19, 11, 23, 28, right? I don't have, or sorry, district 13, not 18, 13. My bad. You know, these are not the issue. 21 here, these are not the issue. Even all the way out here in El Paso, Texas, you can see it's a little bit misshapen here, but those aren't the issues that we're looking at. It's really the ones that are around the cities. And you might say, Nathan, shut up. Why are you going on and on about gerrymandering, and why should I even care about this? Well, I'll tell you. It's not good when Democrats gerrymander their states because they're gerrymandering it to take away seats from Republicans. It's not good when Republicans do either. It takes away seats from Democrats, right? This is a bipartisan issue. Neither party benefits from gerrymandering because the Republican states that gerrymander just offset the amount of seats that the Democrats are gerrymandering in their states, right? So California, Washington, New York, they all gerrymander, right? They're all gerrymandering in favor of the Democrats. They're all drawing their congressional seats to favor the Democratic Party. Texas, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, all of these states that are controlled by Republicans, they're drawing their boundaries to benefit Republicans, right? It just offsets, right? It kind of balances out in the end somewhat, but it might not hurt federally the amount of seats that either party gets if gerrymandering was ended, for example, right? What it would do, though, is give people of these states more fair representation in Congress. So what do I mean by that? For example, California would have more Republicans coming from California if it was not being gerrymandered. Texas would have more Democrats coming from California if it was not being gerrymandered. There are Republicans and Democrats that live in both states, right? Is it fair to those individuals living in those respective states to live in a gerrymandered district? If you're a Democrat in Texas or a Republican in California, is it fair to you and your vote if you live in a gerrymandered district in the state to have representation that does not really represent you, right? Your district might be gerrymandered so much that, Texas might have 5 more Democrat seats if it was not being gerrymandered, right? That would more fairly represent the people in Texas, for example, in Congress. Same thing with California. Might have 5 more Republican seats. Who knows, right? We don't know. This is a bipartisan issue. Neither side likes this, right? We as Republicans complain when California does it. Democrats complain when Texas does it. It's not fair for anyone. But there's ways that we can solve this, right? I'll pull up this other map so you can take a look at while I'm talking here. So this shows the proposed Republican-Democrat districts here. You can see that Texas essentially is only giving 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 districts to Democrats in the state, right? These little weirdly shaped districts that pull in some other areas, and then all these Republican districts that surround it kind of stretch in and pull in the vote share from other parts of the state, right? I'd like to do a whole video talking about gerrymandering and how it can be fixed, but we have ways to do this. We have ways to fix it. How can we fix it, you might ask? We have data that goes down to the precinct level that, by the way, is publicly available data. I actually have a data set on my computer right now that has data down to the precinct level showing what the results were, right? We can draw congressional boundaries around precincts to ensure that within those precincts, right, we have competitive seats, we have solid Republican seats and solid Democrat seats, right? We have ways to make this more fair. We have extremely advanced computers that we can give parameters to make a fair congressional map using data from the precinct level to give us fair congressional seats, to tie districts, to tie precincts together in ways that are more equitable to people living in those areas, right? So maybe I complain too much. It's not an issue that will ever be solved, in my opinion, because the reason why it won't be solved is Texas does not want to be the one to say, we're ending gerrymandering, we're going to make fair congressional seats, right? Because they feel like California won't do the same thing back, right? California won't be the first to, because they know that Texas won't do it back. And they're just shooting themselves in the foot if one of these states just fixes it themselves. They're shooting themselves in the foot nationally, right? You're going to get people across the board complaining that, hey, Republicans, why did you fix this? We just lost 4 or 5 congressional seats in Texas because you fixed it. The way that this would have to be fixed is by a bipartisan issue across state boundaries to end gerrymandering in their states and make a fair and equitable map for their citizens of the state. Write to your representative, tell them that you want to end gerrymandering in the state. Anyways, That's all I gotta say about all this. I think that it's shameful that the Democrats are leaving Texas when they could have some amount of influence in making a map that's more fair to them. Instead, that they're choosing to act as toddlers and leave. But also, I think it's shameful that we have states that are choosing to gerrymander their districts and not give the people of their states fair representation in Congress. Either way, that's all I've got to say about that for today. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Spin Cycle Live. I will be back here with you all again on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Once again, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this show with friends. Let people know how great it is. Let people know how great my opinions are on the internet. I got the best opinions on the internet. We love to see it. Let me know about all. Let everyone know about all that. And yeah, follow me everywhere. But I'll be back here again on Thursday. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And with that, I have been Nathan Hale. This has been Spin Cycle Live. Peace out.